Someone who's been mentoring me in this space, and this sister is actually younger than me, but she's been mentoring me, and I thought it'd be great to have her set the stage to contextualize reparations. And I will be quiet because I know we're short on time, but I want to give Sister Dreisen a few moments to introduce the significance of reparations as a part of our theme, especially as it relates to something like blockchain and the Black community, the global Black community. Sister Dreisen Heith. Good morning, sister.
Good morning, Claire.
All right, let's do it.
Good to see you. Good to see everyone, and glad you are coming together as community on these issues. I am, it's we're in a once in a generational life moment around reparations right now and around the movement. It's become, sure, more mainstream, but we know we've been fighting for this since even before emancipation, and all the possibilities of what that would look like. When I think of the space I'm in today, and I'm thinking about the Freedmen's Bureau and how that was a tool of access to wealth, for a short while, as other people, there was land settled out of that, but other people were denied access of that process, but then it was destroyed altogether. How do we ensure and maybe even have a digitized model of the Freedmen's Bureau that's controlled by us, for us. When we talk about the ills and the continuing legacy of enslavement in the US and globally, we're talking about the manifestations, the evolutions of enslavement, in prison labor, in incarceration altogether. When you think about pretrial incarceration, and how we're overpopulating carceral systems anyway, but how pretrial incarceration alone keeps people in jail who have not been convicted of any crime, and is disproportionately us. It's based on wealth. It contributes to this system of subordination and exploitation. But it also leads to tools, technological tools like algorithms that have been naturally and designed to be racially biased, that don't predict whether people are going to actually commit a new crime. They rather predict a new arrest through this carceral system. When we think about how mass incarceration, over-incarceration of people, and the use of isolation as a quote unquote rehabilitative measure, how that's caused psychological, economic, and social, political damage on our people, our opportunity to participate, and so the
how about the
as well as
but how about the thing you were teaching me about the UN and the fact that this issue of reparations has been actually identified and actually included as a part of the conversation as it relates to what we as human beings globally should expect out of the world? I think so many of our folks need to understand there's an international context to this issue.
Absolutely. So in international human rights law, the right to reparation, the right to remedy is well defined. And a number of member states in the UN are a party to two treaties, one established in 1966 that covers political and civil rights, and another covenant, dealing with the elimination of discrimination from 1965. This is precedent by, the international human rights law community that says if a violation by a government occurs, a gross violation like enslavement, a gross violation like sexual violence, serious violations like racialized segregation, acts of racial discrimination like extrajudicial killings of Black people by the police. These are all the myriad of things that qualify as needing remedy that is proportional to the harm committed. That's also a a distinct point in international human rights law that you can't just throw, the people that have been injured have to determine what the remedies are. And there should be as many remedies as there are harms to properly target that. You don't treat a tear in your shoulder the same way you treat, a broken foot. So you wouldn't assign a remedy that's a catch-all because the harm is so unique and multifaceted. So international human rights law guides us in not just this dismissal of reparations, but an obligation for government and private actors to fulfill.
Well, thank you, Sister Dreisen. Thank you. Now, I did, and again, this is I'm about to push it too far, but I even see this thing with the Nuremberg trials, where after the Nazis did the horrible things to our Jewish brothers and sisters, there were people held accountable. And in a global sense, there's never been an accountance of colonization, the 500 years of literally destroying it. They oftentimes talk about who we are as if we gained something from being in the United States, as opposed to saying that we had civilizations that were disrupted by this wicked form of predatory or capital, or however you want to describe it. But it's almost like you see the legacy of it there. Since there was an accountance to the degree with Nuremberg, people know that these behaviors are wrong. But when even today in Africa, as African Americans or even the Caribbean, it seems like that behavior towards a white supremacist ideology, dehumanizing us, it really doesn't have the same stigma. It's almost like a normalization. Like after colonialism happened, no European colonizer went to jail. Like we've had more Black African leaders go to the ICC, and literally not one no French, no British, no, the Germans are talking about some money, but literally this conversation of how if we don't hold people accountable, as you're talking about, how it could also allow people to keep injuring folks and actually normalizing it. And when you have settler colonial states, like in Rhodesia or when they had South Africa, these folks, they even did a thing called Truth and Reconciliation, where no one went to jail. Like literally, if you kill us, they'll come up with all kind of reasons not to hold people accountable and say that's justice. But literally, most of the folks who've gone to jail in America, disproportionately, I mean, have been us, even though the people who've actually perpetrated and created these environments have never been held accountable for this wicked context of that we are living in literally right now, which is probably the most dysfunctional in the sense of, global warming, pollution. Like if this thing really worked, if white supremacy actually worked, maybe we wouldn't argue, but literally the world is about to explode due to humbly, reparations now. HR 40, the bill is on the floor. Let's get that thing out there. It's got over how many co-sponsors does it have?
194 after yesterday. Representative Charlie Crist, who was holding out for a while, finally got on board. So we're happy to have his support.
All right. Well, we need to make sure we get that off the floor and get that passed. And then also make sure we take care of our Haitian brothers and sisters that are coming here under duress. Well, Sister Dreisen, thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you for all that you're doing. How can folks get in contact with you? Because I know you need some support. We need as many people helping you in this, and there are so many people. Let me just say that. I know you never say this is about you. You're literally one of the many folks that are putting this work in, but we value you. We respect your sacrifice, and we know you're doing it for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How can they get in contact with you?
Thank you. Follow me on Twitter at Dreisen Heith. Shoot me a DM. If you want to know more about reparations, if you need more ammo in your professions, because there's a whole lot of intersectionalities and we need all of our people involved in this, all of the pressure points. I think that's the best way for now. And really, really grateful to be in this space and soak in this revolutionary spirit.
Thank you, Sister Dreisen. Thank you, humbly.